We're back over at our Lincoln project, and we are going to be delivering this project in just a few weeks, but I wanted to give you guys a sneak peek at what we have going on here. First things first, this big black blanket is covering up a giant fish tank. I heard through the grapevine that this was a gift from the wife to the husband, because early on in the project, it was nixed from our scope. This is the living room, or what will be the living room. I think they have furniture coming next week. This was added in the early stages of the project, and these stairs were something that were really design built for us. We worked collaboratively on site and tried to figure out the best way we could, kind of use the materials that we had existing, but also new. If you guys remember, we self-leveled this whole floor before we did tile install, and we ultimately ended up with using tile on these stairs. Adjacent to me is a spiral staircase with oak treads. This is something that it's going to stay for now, but might not stay long term. So using the oak and the stair treads wasn't going to be the best decision. Depending on where you're standing, it's probably gonna look a little bit weird, but what we decided is that when you're standing at the loft looking down, we wanted the floor to look as though these tiles were essentially cut and clipped and dropped into place. We decided to take this grid pattern and run it as though there were no steps here, and then adding these risers as separate pieces. We also used the Schluter Finnick, so instead of mitering these, they offer a really thin 1/8 by 1/8 profile to essentially protect the edge of the tile with metal, but also keep it very minimal. The other thing in here, we basically refreshed this space, added new paint, an accent wall. But one thing this house was lacking when they purchased it was air conditioning. So if you look up here, the HVAC guys are just wrapping up. You see these linear slot diffusers. Number one, aesthetically, I think they look really good. But number two, it was really important because this part of the house was the hardest to achieve a path of ductwork. We came up with this solution up here. That entire chase is a big piece of ductwork that is supplying air conditioning only. Cool air drops, so we're basically flooding that ceiling and allowing this cool air to run down our ceiling and cool this space and make it much more comfortable. Because putting all this work into this beautiful home, we want the home to also be comfortable. You guys are gonna get a quick sneak peek at the kitchen. We're gonna save the final reveal for another episode. You guys remember there was a wall here. We've reworked the entire kitchen. We've installed some amazing details, amazing storage solutions. And this is the first time that this wine cellar is uncovered with our floor system. One thing I've been wondering this entire project is, are you gonna walk into this space and walk straight across this wine cellar, or are you gonna walk around it? Because it is a focal point. It's really, really cool. It is glass. It's designed to be walked on. How are you going to feel when you came into this space? I find myself walking around it every time. As time goes on, it's going to be really comfortable. I am curious if the dogs are gonna be comfortable enough to walk across it. I'm gonna guess no. But this really ties in our beverage and bar center. We have multiple beverage fridges, a kegerator that's going to serve beer, as well as nitro cold brew, my favorite. But let's go in the last portion of this project. This was something added early on. It's the guest bathroom. So this bathroom is in the final stages as well. One big piece we're missing is the stone. So you see this plywood box, it's actually gonna get wrapped on all 4 sides with a stone, and then this really killer backsplash detail that Amy came up with that will encapsulate these 2 receptacles. Obviously installing a mirror above it. But what's really important in small spaces like this is the intentional design and the way we execute the small details. And I'm gonna walk you through a couple of them, and I'm gonna explain why I think they're so important. First off, we're using Schluter's new Finnick. So this is an 1/8 by 1/8, and it basically emulates that mitered tile detail, but gives you that nice straight edge. Also protects that outside corner. More traditionally, you would see an 1/8 by 3/8 or 1/8 by 1/2 inch, which they call the jolly. But it's something, we chose that we wanted a symmetrical look. In the past, we've actually used the quadeck, but I really like the smallness of this. Here's our traditional jolly. So looking at the face, you're having this 1/8 by 1/8, but when you loop around, the reason we use the jolly is because it gives us this 3/8 return, which is the thickness of tile, to get us back to where our glass track. So that glass track runs the entire length of the wall and then across the entire floor. And they actually ran it all the way over to this wall, even though there's no glass here, to allow a clean transition from our glossy white to our matte black floor. And they achieved that by actually cutting the back leg of that glass track off here, but leaving it where the glass is. One little tip, if you're gonna be doing this, you need to leave some room for the glass guys to drop their glass in and slide it over. And it just so happened to be the same size as these tiles. So we actually left one of these little square tiles out. We dropped the glass in, slid it over, and we installed that tile last. It gives it a really clean look. So while I'm down here, let's talk about our drain. It's really important for us to have this drain on site at the very beginning of the project. Why? Because we want to understand exactly how large it is and then be able to map out on the floor our final wall dimension, which means the face of tile to face of tile, and then work backwards from there to make sure our drain is installed in a manner to allow this water to drop down into the drain. What that means is we have the drain tucked really tight to the back wall as well as the two side walls. And what that allows is, since the top of the drain isn't perforated like a traditional drain, and all your water is going to go around the drain into these small slots, when water is rushing down this wall, we want that to go right into the drain body. There's no floor, there's no interruption, it's right into the drain, into the plumbing. And I alluded to this being like an organic square, but I think a regular square is probably a better description. It wasn't going to net us a really straight edge on this drain body. So what we chose to do is we chose to install tile, jolly, and then on the drain body itself, we installed jolly in a frame all the way around, installing the tile between it. And this gave us a really crisp, straight line. And when this tile is cleaned and sealed, it's gonna blend in really nice. And I mean, at that point, probably be nearly invisible. One of the last details I want to talk about is something I picked up from Doug down in Austin, Texas, is this transition. So we actually tiled this wall, finished it. This tile stops with a jolly again. And then from there, we actually brought our plasters back and we installed a second layer of blue board with a stop bead. And what that allowed us to do is have our tile and our plaster on the same plane. More traditionally, you would be proud of the plaster and seeing the butt end of that jolly. Now, what's the importance of all these details? To me, it's really important because in small spaces like this, things like interruptions in the plane or planar changes, or heavy use of materials when it should be something really small and minor, being intentional with every single detail really nets for a much better result. So we're excited to share the final reveal on this project. We got a couple weeks left of scope and punch list. Clients will move in and then we'll do our big reveal. As always, appreciate you guys following along. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications because we drop a new video every week. And as always on Instagram, @NSBuilders and @DesignBuildRepeat.